Welcome, first-time listeners and returners to the Sports Deli. Hey everyone, Hootie Hoot, host and producer of the Sports Deli podcast. I'm coming to you live from one of the most beautiful cities in America, La Jolla, California. And today is a sad day. It is October 25th, 2022. And Brittney Griner has been sentenced after her appeal in a Russian court to time served and nearly 9 years in prison for possession of cannabis oil, which is illegal in Russia, where she had less than a gram, which is about an inch the size of a pencil. And I wanted to do something 1 week ago today because there was a duality on that day, and I thought about how amazing October 18th is because it's my daughter's birthday. And it's also Brittney Griner's birthday, and how sad and how difficult of a day it must have been for her to be spending her birthday without her loved ones, without her friends and family, without her fans, and all the people around the WNBA. For those of you that don't know, Brittney Griner is a professional women's basketball player. And a lot of players like Brittney Griner go overseas to supplement their income. And some, like Brittney, make a lot of money during the off season. So she probably makes about $250,000 with the WNBA, and she probably makes quadruple that, at least, in Russia. Or she did. And so I've confirmed with a source that she did in fact have cannabis oil in her luggage at the airport, because I thought for a while that maybe it was planted. I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, right? And so, like I said, there's a duality to last week because it was such a happy day for me because it was my daughter's birthday. But then it was also Brittney's birthday, and I couldn't imagine being her. So there's a lot of this story that is very difficult to handle, not only from a political standpoint, aside from the fact that she's being unlawfully detained and she's a political prisoner, but the fact that science has shown marijuana to help people and that it should be decriminalized. And it's not in a number of countries, some Middle Eastern countries, and Russia, and there are others. The marijuana was prescribed by a doctor in Arizona for Brittney. And clearly Russia is not going to acknowledge that. And yes, she brought it into the country, knowingly. I think we'd all agree that it's ridiculous to give someone a 9-year sentence. Now, I know there have been certain podcasters that have discussed the issue of how there are a number of people in the United States that have been imprisoned over the decades for the same types of things when it comes to mandatory minimums and 3 strikes and you're out and non-violent cannabis offenses. And that is true. I'm not going to deny it. But that's not the focus of today. But I did want to acknowledge that because, you know, a lot of people have pushed back on a lot of the things that I talk about. And I try and educate myself on issues before I speak on them. But this one is hard to swallow. But when you look at people that are similar to the current leader of Russia, whether it's Hitler, whether it's Mussolini, and other dictators, and other narcissists in leadership positions, whether it's been here in the United States recently or in the past, they don't care about public perception. That's the scary part of it all. You would think that they would have people with seats at the table to say, listen, you want to look a little more progressive. If we have a chance to have any kind of exchange and get some of our political prisoners out, you know, we have to show a little bit of flexibility. They don't care about that. Not one bit. I mean, they don't care if it hurts them economically. They just don't care. I mean, when you're that kind of person, you're going to double down on anything. And not one person, not one protest, nothing not a judge, not your wife. Nobody is going to tell you what to do in that situation. And that's just the way it is with people like that. And that's the scary and sad part. And because of that, Brittney Griner is going to be in jail for 9 years. And as of now, they haven't even responded to an attempt to exchange a prisoner here in the United States, I would assume of Russian descent, for Brittney, according to recent reports. The other thing that's really sad to me is the lack of outspokenness and coverage when it comes to this issue. And I've spoken about this many, many times regarding being outspoken, being allies. The most popular and prestigious professional athletes speaking out when their platforms would allow them the opportunity to educate people, to be a voice, where someone like me, when I speak out, I may get a few hundred people to see my video. But if the women of the WNBA, who always speak out, if the NBA players who speak out often, if the NFL players would speak out, who rarely do, if women's soccer players would speak out, who often do, then there would be this collective feeling of unity and togetherness, and it would impact the world. We've seen it. There are strength in numbers. And if you look at our recent history, because people don't typically like to look back too far into history for some reason, but if you look back recently with the WNBA and how they came together to change an election, 2 elections in Georgia, because of their commitment to stick together with regards to Reverend Warnock. And we here in the Sports Deli are hoping that he wins again, because, as a sidebar, there's no way that Herschel Walker should be allowed to run for public office. It is absolutely disgusting, to be quite honest with you. And I could go off on a whole tangent about that, about number 45's handpicked candidate for Georgia. Oh, it makes me sick to my fucking stomach. Anyways, when I looked online over the course of the last week, from Brittney's birthday on October 18th until yesterday, from October 18th, her birthday, until today, October 25th, a week later, there wasn't much on her whatsoever. There wasn't much outspokenness. There wasn't much media coverage. You go to the main media organizations online, and there was not one thing until yesterday's ruling. And even then, it was barely a headline. It was barely talked about. You know who didn't talk about it? The NFL quarterbacks that I criticize constantly. Tom, Aaron, Peyton, Eli, Troy, Tony, the main white quarterbacks. The ones with the biggest platforms do not say anything. Now, this is a situation where it should be everyone, but they don't speak out about anything. Those guys don't speak out about Colin. They don't speak out about BG. They don't speak out about young black 16-year-olds that are murdered. They don't speak out, other than initially about George Floyd. They just don't speak out because they're selfish, because they have no backbones. They refuse to publicly speak out about these types of horrendous situations. I mean, I can't imagine being in jail for 1 day, let alone for 9 years, which is, I would say, 50-50 at this point that it could happen. It doesn't look like they want to exchange one thing right now for Brittney. So she's going to have to find the inner resiliency and strength to find a way. And it's not going to be easy. You guys remember Bob Barker? Have your pet spayed or neutered. Bye-bye, everyone. He did that for 28 years at the end of every show. At the end of the show, when people have already turned the channel. Do you remember what show was after The Price is Right? Because I don't. Do you remember what show was before The Price is Right? I don't. But I sure remember what he said at the end of that show. Have your pets spayed or neutered. You know what percentage of dogs are now spayed and neutered in the United States? 83%. You know what percentage of cats are spayed and neutered now in the United States? 91%. You know why that was? One guy. One old white guy on a game show in the mornings from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. when almost everyone is working. But everyone knew what Bob Barker said at the end of the show. One guy did all that. And he took it a step further. He educated himself on the issue. He became a vegetarian. And he became the name and the face associated with having your pet spayed or neutered. Amazing. When you put your mind to it, what can happen? We've had a lot of WNBA players and coaches on this show, from Dan Hughes to Ruthie Bolton to Auntie Chantel, Kayla Alexander, Essence Carson, and there's been many others. And they are some of the strongest, baddest women that I've ever met. We've had the Legends of the Ball on this show, the first women in the history of professional women's basketball. The other hard part to think about, besides the longevity of the sentence, is what she has to deal with on a daily basis. She gets 1 hour a day outside. She only gets 2 showers a week. It's so unfair. I just can't wrap my head around even a dictatorship when the science is there, how you do not decriminalize something like marijuana. I don't understand it. I understand racism. I understand a lot of things. But even a bully, even a dictator, you'd think would want to be somewhat progressive in terms of helping its people. Oh man. So we just want to make sure that we keep Brittney in our consciousness, and you can write to her. So you guys go to wearebg.org, and if you send her an email to wearebg at Team WAS, you see it here up on the screen, wearebg at Team WAS, WAS is with 2 S's, .com, they will print that out and they will give it to her. And I think it's so important that she get fan mail, mail from her teammates, from other players from the WNBA, from her family, obviously. But I think this is how we'll help keep her spirits up. And you have to do your best to speak out. Whether you like a post, share a post, comment on a post, do a video yourself, share a story about Brittney Griner, if you went to Baylor or you went to a WNBA game or she signed an autograph for you. And we also have to speak up for anyone, anywhere around the world, who's being marginalized and who's being jailed for nonviolent offenses, especially in a case like this for marijuana oil, a medicinal product that was prescribed for her that should be decriminalized, and now she's serving 9 years in jail for that as a political prisoner, as a pawn. It's very sad. So speak out. There are strength in numbers. So please contact your local and state politicians for any group or individual that's being marginalized. Please stand up for any injustice like this. There are not only strength in numbers, but in the case of Bob Barker, there are strength in a single number. And the power of social media is real. So get the information out there, disseminate it. It's very easy to educate yourself and educate others. And I don't know what we can do individually or collectively to help Brittney. There's a lot of people helping her, from the United States government to the WNBA and the NBA. But I would really like to hear more people speak out about this, especially those white quarterbacks that I talked about earlier, as Brittney does represent women of color, women, the LGBTQ community, and being falsely imprisoned in another country as a political prisoner. So until next time, this is Hootie Hoot, host and producer of the Sports Daily Podcast, with this special edition during the 50th anniversary of Title IX in honor of Brittney Griner being falsely imprisoned in Russia. And we want to continue to raise awareness to free BG. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for joining us. Much love to everyone. Remember, Black Lives Matter. Stop the bullying. Stop the Asian hate. Contact your local and state politicians for any inequalities, for any individual or any group that's being marginalized. Also, everyone, we want to raise awareness for those individuals that are currently imprisoned for non-violent offenses, in particular those with long-term sentences that are disproportionate, in particular to those people in the black and brown community. And I want to send a shout out to 40tons.co. 40 Tons is a socially conscious cannabis brand, and they're a social enterprise using the regulated cannabis industry to fight injustice, in particular for cannabis prisoners. So check them out again at 40, the number 4, the number 0, tons, plural, 40tons.co, because what they're doing in the cannabis space and being a socially conscious company is truly incredible, and they have my full support. And also wanted to remind all of you, if you're having a tough time, you can always call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline, and that number is 988. That's it. All you got to do is dial 988 from any phone. Thanks again to our amazing sponsors, Breaking Tea and Moolah Kicks, which you can see right here up on the screen. You can search them online at breakingtea.com and moolahkicks.com. And if you'd like to support us at the Sports Deli, we'd love to have you either make a one-time donation or feel free to make a donation monthly, either 99 cents a month, $4.99 a month, or $9.99 a month. If you have questions about that, send me an email again to thesportsdeli@gmail.com, and I will send you the link on how you can do that. You can also find it at the bottom of every podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Link at the bottom to support the show. Please check out our website at thesportsdelipodcast.com. And remember, gents and ladies, please remember to do your monthly self-breast examinations. And remember, guys, this afflicts about 1,500 men annually, with about a third of those resulting in death. So we want to make sure that we do our monthly self-breast examinations, both men and women. And guys, remember to do your self-testicular examinations every month as well. Until next time, remember, it takes a village. For Dr. J and Coach K, I'm Hootie Hoot. This has been a production of Hootie Hoot Productions. Thank you for joining us in the Sports Deli, where everyone deserves a seat at the table. Remember, it takes a village. Much love, everybody. Peace. To free BG. Thanks for listening, everyone.